Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the iAuthority Network, and today, for the second video of the day, I wanted to talk about the Samsung Galaxy S8, S8 Plus, and Note 8. So before I start getting into this video, I just wanted to let you guys know that the 2017 MacBook Pro review is coming. I just decided to postpone it, that way I would have more to talk about. Being that when the video is released, it will be after a month of just after 1 month of usage, and it'll give me more to talk about, so just stay tuned for that. But moving forward into today's discussion, I wanted to talk about the Galaxy S8, S8 Plus, and Note 8. So throughout the history of Samsung releasing devices, they have never been too great. If you remember back to when the Galaxy S6 is released, that's when things really started to kind of go bad for them in a way I really began to notice. So I remember when the S6 came out, and a big thing with that was it was unable to make it through the day without needing a charge about after 4 hours or so of use, and this was upon launch. And that was disappointing because it takes away from the competition. And while I view Apple as the best, you can't allow the best to get lazy, because if there's no competition, there's no reason for something to get better in the field of products, that is. So when the Galaxy S6 failed in terms of battery, it really kind of made things simpler for the competition. All they had to do was make sure their devices lasted a day without needing a charge, and most of them did that. Moving forward a year to the 7 lineup of the S7, we had the S7 and S7 Edge. So again, we kind of had a weak release with the S7, just the regular one. It didn't sell very well, mostly because it didn't bring anything new to the table. In fact, it receded back a year and kept a very similar design to the S6, without bringing the Edge display to it, so it pretty much kept the same internals with an upgraded battery and camera. But overall, it didn't sell very well because it didn't bring a lot to the table. It was basically what the S6 should have been. Then, also that year, we got the S7 Edge, which didn't sell well either. It was mostly a gimmick at first. The sales weren't very well. I still consider the curved display to be a gimmick, but that eventually, the sales for the S7 Edge did eventually turn around, and they did get a little bit better, but however, that didn't stop controversies, one of them being, of course, if you're familiar with using your smartphone, you notice that sometimes you accidentally touch the screen. The problem with the Edge was that you could touch the screen and stuff would happen. A major controversy of that came from, in fact, people would touch the screen on the edges and it would do stuff like make phone calls, and that was a problem. But to be honest, through software and such, I guess it did patch itself, because after a little bit we didn't hear anything of that. Moving forward, just about 6 months later, we got the Note 7, which, if you don't know, was a complete disaster. Basically what happened was, upon the release of the phone, it was discovered that the Note 7's battery was too big for the phone's internals, and what would happen was the battery would not have room to expand upon usage, because that's something that batteries do when they get warm. They need to expand, and it's very important that the batteries can expand within inside the phone's chassis and shell. But that didn't happen, causing the lithium-ion batteries in the phones to combust. That caused a bunch of problems, because when it burned down houses, it burned down cars, and to be honest, it left a lot of people not feeling safe. All of the Note 7s were recalled and shut down via software updates. However, that doesn't change the fact that it was a major flaw that should have been noticed outside of testing. And as time went on, we began to see a pattern where S7 Edges began combusting for the same reasons. However, it was not at the high frequency rate that the Note 7s were combusting. Come to find out a little bit later that an S6 Edge Plus combusted from a battery problem, and while luckily the later incidents involving the S6 Edge Plus and the S7 Edge were not as widespread as the Note 7, it definitely raised a lot of concerns regarding Samsung and their products. So, in 2017, they released the Galaxy S8 and S8 Plus. Now, typical of a launch, they had issues right out of the gate. The first one being that they lied in terms of how the display would be shipped out. They promised a certain display resolution, and upon shipping, it did not come with that display resolution. In fact, it came on the standard display resolution, which was about 1080p or so for the display itself. I'm not exactly sure on what number it was, but it wasn't what they had promised. In fact, it was only able to be turned on to what they called their Quad HD display in settings, and it was buried very deep within the settings upon its launch. I can't imagine that's changed. But that caused a lot of controversy because it was advertised as a super quad AMOLED HD phone. And it hurt the sales like you wouldn't believe. Another big issue with the Galaxy S8 and S8 Plus was the location of the fingerprint reader, that being right next to the camera. While none of this really did much to drive down sales, it didn't do a lot of good for the company that was trying to still recover from the Note 7 crisis. So, now that we are just short of the S9 and S9 Plus coming out, I thought it'd be good to take a look back at what we've gotten so far. And the S8 and S8 Plus are once again on the verge of having a controversy. So about a year into the device's release is a very important time, because you can really see what you've gotten out of this device. And what we have gotten out of the S8 and S8 Plus, and even the Note 8, which is only about 6 months old, is another sort of incident that is pretty bad. While not as bad as the Note 7, nowhere near that scale, it's still a pretty bad issue. That being that recently, a number of Samsung S8 users reported that their device was completely unable to charge. And this was across the S8 and S8 Plus and Note 8. So when I hear news like that, the first thing that comes into my mind is this is proof of what I had actually said in my Samsung why to avoid the S9 and S9 Plus. It really shows that, for one, Samsung I can't see them really caring about the overall quality of their products, because when the Note 7 crisis happened, for one, we never actually got an apology letter from Samsung. Instead, we got, take your phone into your carrier and they'll replace it, or give you a substitute phone and they'll give you the money back or whatever. But the phrase, I am sorry, or even we apologize, it didn't find its way out to anyone from Samsung. It was never officially issued. There was nothing. It was just take your phone in, get it replaced, get some money back. They tried to cover it up, and that's it's very unprofessional. It's very much like they knew what was going on and they said, who cares, if we replace it, that doesn't mean we have to apologize, despite the fact that we, for one, put your life in danger with a phone that obviously did not go through enough testing, but two, left a lot of people in very bad situations. Imagine if you had owned a Note 7 and your house burned down. Now, hopefully, I pray that never happens to you, but just think, what would your reaction be to not receive an apology, but instead be told if you had gone to your carrier, the situation would be avoided? And I think that's very frustrating. And this year, it's a similar cycle. So the S8, S8 Plus, and Note 8 are all, apparently there's a number of units unable to hold a charge, but it's gone a step further to where the ports on these devices that are not able to hold a charge no longer respond to being plugged in, and you won't be able to recharge the devices. So obviously a number of them had to have had this problem, because we did get an official statement from Samsung similar to other issues they've had in the past, but this one follows very much in the Note 7 type of statement, where they basically say, yes, our ports are failing significantly, which that just shows that they're not making good enough hardware, because these phones are only 6 months old. And while it's not a problem with all of them, there has to be some kind of issue with the manufacturing line, because if 2 or 3 maybe out of 12 or 20 have this problem, it's no big deal, but it's obviously generating a lot of buzz. So there has to be something with the hardware. So once again, they released a statement saying, yes, you can take your S8 or Note 8 into either a Samsung store, you can contact them, or I believe there's some way you can get it to a carrier and they will take care of that. But once again, we have not received an apology. And considering that the Note 8 especially costs, after shipping and handling and all that stuff with activation, costs well over $1,000, I think that's something that, if there was a problem with the device, not something that the consumer can control, something like bad hardware, that's something that I would very much like an apology from. Now, I know that an apology is not going to fix it, but it would make it better. Same thing with the S8 Plus. The S8 Plus is very expensive, and I cannot see why this should happen on a phone of that price. Now, granted, I'm not saying every smartphone has to be perfect. I'm sure the iPhone 10 has its problems, being over $1,000. But the real difference here between the iPhone 10 and Samsung phones is that with Apple you get a year of warranty, so you won't be paying out of your pocket. While Samsung, on the other hand, is charging a fee to have these ports replaced. Ports that were made bad in their production system from their manufacturer. They manufacture their own goods. So to hear that, one, we are not getting an apology, and two, that we are forced to pay for these port replacements, which is completely ridiculous. I think that's ridiculous. We should not have to pay for bad hardware manufacturing. And a lot of people will kind of relate this to the Apple battery debate. And I can already see it now, them saying, well, they're forcing us to upgrade. The difference between Samsung and Apple was with the battery case, this is a perfect example, because one, if you had a problem with your iPhone 6 or above battery, they lowered the battery replacement from $80 to $29. Now, that's only for people who are not under warranty anymore. With Samsung, on the other hand, they've officially voided these fried ports from their warranty. There has been no price drop in the replacement fee to fix the ports on the phones. So that really gets me thinking, is this a company that legitimately cares about their customers? And I generally think after this, no. I'm almost tempted to go back to my video and remove the Note 9 completely from the list altogether of 6 phones to look out for in 2018. Because if this is how one of the big players in the game acts regarding their smartphones, then it makes me wonder why me, the consumer, you, the consumer, should go out and make purchase of these phones, which have increasingly gotten more and more expensive. And I wouldn't be so fazed by this if they had issued an apology statement saying that yes, if it's under warranty, we'll replace it for free because it happened on the manufacturing line. But the fact that there was no apology in any form, and the fact that they removed fried ports from their warranty coverage, that's extremely frustrating and in my opinion, very unethical. So I'm really not sure what to say here, because it feels like they are screwing you out of your device. For what reason, I don't know. I can't imagine anyone with a screwed device would say, I want to go get the S9 now, considering you just paid anywhere from around $700, $800 up, even $1,000 up if you purchased the Note 8 for a device that Samsung immediately dropped. And I can't give a reason for why you would. So I just wanted to get that out there, that this is the difference between the two companies. Between two companies, one that cares and the other that just tries to hide their problems. So I would actually like to hear from you guys. If you could drop a comment down below, what do you think this means moving forward for the company, Samsung, and just in general? If you own a Galaxy device, does this make you want to go out and purchase another one? And if you have an S8, an S8 Plus, or even the Note 8, and you are experiencing this problem, I am terribly sorry. That is a real shame. I planned on doing a video at some point called Great Phones to Pick Up Now, but it will most likely get pushed forward. It should maybe come out tomorrow. I'm not really sure what'll happen. If breaking news comes out again like this, I will cover it, but I am just kind of in shock that after the Note 7 crisis and them trying to avoid it, that it's starting to happen again. Just because, well, that's disappointing, and it shows that this company just really is not mature. But I would love to hear what their excuse is this time, considering last time, when the Note 7 went up in flames, we didn't get an answer for over a year, and the answer did not come from Samsung. In fact, we know that around a year, LG was paid a significant amount of money to figure out what went wrong with the Note 7. So that's just my thoughts on this whole Galaxy continuous issue thought process here. It's definitely not something that's brand new. We've had issues with Samsung products, batteries, especially their phones, in the past few years. But this one on the Note 7 really make me wonder why and just what's going on with that company. So that's just something to think about. If you like what you saw here today, be sure to drop this video with a big like button, and if you like the content on the channel, be sure to hit subscribe. If you want to stay up to date with all the latest videos, be sure to hit the little bell icon down below. It'll give you a little notification every time you do it. And be sure to share the video with your friends, because I would definitely like this video to get around, because it just shows that not every company creates and cares about their products and consumers equally. So without further ado, like I said, drop a like button, subscribe to the channel. If you want to stay up to date with the latest notification, hit that bell icon. Alright guys, until next time, peace.